Have you ever been home alone, hearing the faintest creak or rustle, and wondered if you were truly alone? Tonight, we dive into 5 disturbing true home alone stories that will make you think twice about those moments of solitude. Emily was 17 when she found herself home alone on a stormy night. Her parents were away for the weekend, leaving her to enjoy the peace and quiet. But as the clock struck midnight, Emily heard a knock at the door. She hesitated, peeking through the peephole, only to find no one there. Minutes later, the knocking returned, louder and more insistent. Emily's heart raced as she called her parents, but the knocking continued. She mustered the courage to open the door, but there was nothing, except for muddy footprints leading away into the darkness. Emily had always loved the quiet, the solace of being alone, but this was different. The storm outside raged on, the thunder clapping loudly, shaking the windows. She tried to rationalize the knocking as a trick of her mind or perhaps an animal, but the precision of the knocks was too human to ignore. She locked all the doors and windows, double-checking each one. As she tried to relax in the living room, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. She answered hesitantly.
"Hello?"
A distorted voice responded.
"Why did you open the door, Emily?"
Her heart stopped. She didn't recognize the voice, and the fact that the caller knew her name sent chills down her spine. She hung up immediately, blocking the number. Her mind raced as she wondered who it could be. She checked her social media, thinking maybe someone was playing a cruel prank, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Hours passed, and the storm seemed to worsen. Emily decided to try and get some sleep, hoping that daylight would bring clarity. She settled into bed, leaving a small lamp on for comfort. As she started to drift off, she heard the knocking again. This time, it was coming from her bedroom window. She froze, her eyes fixed on the window. Gathering all her courage, she slowly approached and peeked through the blinds. There was nothing but darkness and the reflection of her own terrified face. She tried to calm herself, thinking it was the storm playing tricks on her senses. She crawled back into bed, her mind unable to let go of the fear. The knocking continued intermittently throughout the night, each time from a different part of the house. Emily barely slept, jumping at every sound, her nerves frayed by the time dawn finally broke. When her parents returned, she told them everything. They checked the house and found no signs of forced entry or any indication that someone had been there. But Emily knew what she had experienced was real. From that day on, she never stayed home alone again. The incident left her with a deep sense of unease, a fear that someone or something was out there, watching, waiting for the next time she would be alone. Tom was a college student staying at his parents' house over the summer. One night, as he lay in bed, he started hearing whispers coming from the walls. He brushed it off as his imagination, but the whispers grew louder, more distinct. He could make out his name being called. Tom searched the house but found no one. The whispers continued nightly, driving him to the brink of madness. It wasn't until he discovered an old, forgotten journal in the attic that he learned about the house's dark past. The previous owner had disappeared without a trace, believed to be driven insane by the same whispers. Tom had always enjoyed the peace and quiet of his parents' suburban home. It was a welcome change from the hustle and bustle of college life. But the tranquility was shattered one night when he first heard the whispers. They were faint at first, almost indistinguishable from the wind. But as he lay in bed, they grew clearer, more insistent.
"Tom, Tom."
The voice was soft but unmistakable. He sat up, his heart pounding. He strained to hear more, but the whispers stopped. He got out of bed and walked around the house, checking each room, but found nothing out of the ordinary. He convinced himself it was just his imagination, a side effect of stress from his summer coursework. The next night, the whispers returned. This time, they were louder and seemed to be coming from directly behind his bedroom wall.
Tom, come here.
He jumped out of bed, turning on all the lights. He pressed his ear against the wall, hearing faint scratching sounds. He called out,
"Who's there?"
but received no reply. Over the next few days, the whispers became more frequent and more disturbing. They would start as soon as he turned off the lights, growing louder as the night wore on. He began to hear not just his name, but fragments of sentences.
Help me. I'm trapped, can't get out.
The constant whispers left him sleep-deprived and anxious. Tom decided to investigate further. He searched the house from top to bottom, trying to find the source of the whispers. In the attic, he found an old, dusty journal hidden in a corner. The entries were written by the previous owner, a man named Harold. The journal detailed Harold's descent into madness, plagued by the same whispers that tormented Tom. Harold described how the whispers started innocuously but grew more malevolent over time, urging him to do terrible things. The final entry was chilling. "I can no longer stand the whispers. They want me to join them, to become one with the walls. I must escape, but there's nowhere to run. If you're reading this, beware. The house is alive with their voices." Tom felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He realized the whispers weren't just in his head. They were a part of the house's dark history. He tried to convince his parents to move, but they dismissed his fears as stress-induced paranoia. Desperate, Tom contacted a paranormal investigator who agreed to visit the house. The investigator set up equipment to monitor the sounds and spent the night in the house. Around midnight, the whispers started. The investigator recorded the voices, capturing clear, unsettling messages.
Join us, we are waiting.
The evidence was undeniable. The investigator concluded that the house was haunted by restless spirits trapped within its walls. Tom's parents finally believed him and decided to sell the house. Tom moved back to his college dorm, leaving the whispers behind. But the experience left him scarred, forever haunted by the memory of those nights. Jessica, a single mother, needed to run a quick errand, leaving her young daughter, Lily, with a babysitter. When she returned home, the house was unusually quiet. She found Lily asleep in her room and the babysitter nowhere to be found. Jessica called the babysitter, only to be met with confusion. The babysitter claimed she had never arrived at the house. Jessica later discovered an old photograph of a woman who had died in the house decades ago, the same woman who Lily described as her nice new babysitter. Jessica was a hard-working single mother who adored her daughter, Lily. She rarely left Lily alone, but on this particular evening, she had a sudden emergency and needed to run out for an hour. She called a trusted babysitter, Anna, who agreed to come over immediately. Jessica left a note with instructions and rushed out. When she returned, the house was silent. She expected to find Anna and Lily playing or watching TV, but the living room was empty. She called out, "Anna? Lily?" but received no response. Panic started to set in as she searched the house. She found Lily peacefully asleep in her bedroom, but there was no sign of Anna. Jessica called Anna's phone, and to her surprise, Anna answered from her own home. Anna sounded confused when Jessica asked why she left. "Jessica, I never made it to your house. My car broke down on the way, and I called to let you know." Jessica was shocked. If Anna hadn't been there, then who had been with Lily? She sat down with Lily the next morning and gently asked about the evening. Lily happily described her nice new babysitter who had played games with her and read her stories. Lily's description was detailed and vivid. She even mentioned the babysitter's name, Emily. Jessica was bewildered. She didn't know anyone named Emily. Determined to find answers, she began researching the history of her house. She discovered that decades ago, a young woman named Emily had lived there. Emily had been a beloved babysitter in the neighborhood until she tragically died in a car accident while on her way to babysit. Jessica found an old photograph of Emily in the local library archives. She showed it to Lily without explaining, and Lily immediately recognized her. "That's her, Mommy. That's the nice lady who took care of me." Chills ran down Jessica's spine. She realized that somehow Emily's spirit had returned to watch over her daughter. While the experience was unsettling, Jessica found some comfort in knowing that Lily had been in the care of a kind and protective spirit. From that day on, Jessica felt a strange sense of peace, knowing that Emily was still watching over them. Ryan was a new homeowner, excited to move into his quaint, two-story house. One night, while exploring, he discovered a locked door he hadn't noticed before. Intrigued, he tried to open it but couldn't. Over the next few nights, he heard scratching and muffled cries from behind the door. He called a locksmith, who managed to open the door. Inside, they found a small, dusty room with claw marks on the walls and a single chilling message scrawled in red, "Don't let me out." Ryan had just moved into his new home, a charming old house that seemed perfect. He spent his days unpacking and arranging his new space. On the third night, while exploring the house, he came across a door he hadn't noticed before. It was in the hallway, slightly hidden behind a piece of furniture. Curious, he tried to open it, but it was locked. He searched for a key but found none. He decided to leave it for the time being, thinking it was probably just a storage closet. That night, as he lay in bed, he heard faint scratching noises coming from the direction of the locked door. He brushed it off as the house settling. The next night, the noises were louder, accompanied by what sounded like muffled cries. Ryan's curiosity turned to unease. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He called a locksmith the next day, eager to solve the mystery. The locksmith arrived and, after some effort, managed to unlock the door. As the door creaked open, a foul smell wafted out. Inside was a small, dusty room with claw marks on the walls and a chilling message scrawled in red, "Don't let me out." Ryan felt a wave of fear and nausea wash over him. The room looked like it hadn't been touched in years, yet the marks and message seemed fresh. He immediately called the police, who conducted a thorough investigation. They found no evidence of a recent presence in the room, but they did discover that the previous owner had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Neighbors told Ryan stories about strange occurrences and eerie noises coming from the house for years. Ryan couldn't bring himself to stay in the house after that. The scratching and cries continued every night, growing more intense and desperate. He decided to sell the house and move out as quickly as possible. Before leaving, he sealed the room and locked the door, hoping to contain whatever dark force was inside. Despite his efforts, the house remained unsold. Prospective buyers reported feeling an oppressive presence and hearing strange noises. Ryan's story became a local legend, a warning about the dangers of uncovering the secrets hidden within old houses. Sarah loved collecting antiques, especially old mirrors. One evening, while she was home alone, she noticed movement in one of her mirrors. It wasn't her reflection, it was a man, standing behind her. She turned around, but no one was there. Every time she looked into the mirror, the man was closer, his eyes fixed on hers. Terrified, She covered all the mirrors in her house, but the man still appeared in her dreams, whispering that he was coming for her. Sarah had always been fascinated by antiques. She loved the history and the stories that each piece carried. Her favorite collectibles were old mirrors, each one unique and beautiful. She had a large collection, each mirror carefully placed around her home. One evening, as she admired her newest acquisition, she noticed something strange. In the reflection, she saw movement. At first, she thought it was just a trick of the light, but then she saw him, a man standing behind her, his face pale and his eyes hollow. She spun around, but the room was empty. She looked back at the mirror, and the man was gone. She laughed nervously, convincing herself it was her imagination. Over the next few days, the man appeared more frequently. Each time, he was closer, his expression more intense. Sarah's initial curiosity turned to fear. She covered the mirror with a cloth, hoping that would solve the problem. But the man began to appear in other mirrors around the house. No matter where she looked, he was there, always behind her, always watching. Desperate, she covered all the mirrors in her home. But the man invaded her dreams, whispering to her, telling her that he was coming. Sarah couldn't escape him, even in her sleep. The dreams were vivid and terrifying, leaving her exhausted and scared to close her eyes. She contacted a paranormal expert who agreed to visit her home. The expert told her that mirrors could act as portals, connecting the living world with the spirit realm. They performed a cleansing ritual, hoping to banish the spirit. For a few days, it seemed to work. The man stopped appearing, and Sarah began to relax. But one night, as she was getting ready for bed, she caught a glimpse of him in a small, forgotten mirror she had missed. He was closer than ever, his eyes filled with anger. Sarah screamed, covering the mirror quickly. She realized that as long as any mirror remained, the man would find a way to reach her. Determined to end the nightmare, Sarah removed every mirror from her house. She donated them, sold them, or threw them away. Her house was finally free of reflections, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of peace. However, the peace was short-lived. The man began appearing in reflective surfaces she hadn't considered: windows, glasses, even the surface of water. No matter what she did, she couldn't escape him. Sarah realized that the man was a part of her now, a relentless presence that she could never fully rid herself of. She moved to a new house, hoping to leave the haunting behind. But the man followed her, his whispers growing louder, more insistent. Sarah's story serves as a chilling reminder of the unseen forces that can attach themselves to objects and people, forever altering their lives. Thanks for watching. Remember, when you're home alone and hear that unexpected sound, maybe you're not as alone as you think. Until next time, stay safe, if you can.
If you've ever experienced a chilling encounter while home alone or have a horror story to share, whether it's your own or one from a friend or nearby place, I want to hear it. Send your complete story to my email at yourstory might just be featured in an upcoming video.